do is look at what Matthew says about why the idea of Jesus' body being stolen was circulated, that it presumes that this it's just a grave robbery.
History has an extraordinary way of preserving its greatest secrets because, at times, the most powerful witness to a world-changing event is not a magnificent temple, a legendary treasure, or a towering monument, but a simple piece of carved stone that has outlived kingdoms, empires, and entire civilizations. This remarkable inscription is nearly 2,000 years old, predating Islam by more than 600 years, and its message has left historians, archaeologists, and scholars speechless. What makes this ancient stone so fascinating is that it appears to challenge one of the most common arguments made by critics and Muslim apologists against the resurrection of Jesus. It was not written by one of his followers, nor was it created to defend Christianity. Yet, its carefully carved words seem to point back to one of the most debated events in human history, inviting every reader to reconsider whether the story of the empty tomb was really a legend, or whether something extraordinary happened in Jerusalem nearly 2,000 years ago. Before we uncover why this forgotten stone has fascinated historians for generations, make sure you subscribe to our channel and join us as we continue exploring remarkable discoveries from archaeology and ancient history that bring the world of the Bible into sharper focus. Our story begins in Jerusalem, a city overflowing with pilgrims, Roman soldiers, religious leaders, political tension, and growing expectation during the first century. Only days earlier, crowds had filled the streets celebrating Passover, while a man named Jesus of Nazareth had been crucified outside the city walls under the authority of Pontius Pilate. His followers were devastated. His enemies believed the movement had finally been crushed, and Rome expected another troublesome preacher to fade into history like countless others before him. Yet, something happened that refused to stay buried. According to the Gospel of Matthew, even before Jesus was laid in the tomb, the chief priests remembered his prediction that he would rise again after 3 days. Their greatest fear was not that Jesus would somehow return to life, but that his disciples would steal his body and convince the people that he had risen. They therefore approached Pilate and requested that the tomb be secured. Pilate agreed. The stone was sealed with Roman authority, and guards were stationed to protect the burial site. As Matthew records, "You have a guard. Go, make it as secure as you can." The authorities believed every possible precaution had been taken. When the tomb was later discovered empty, another explanation immediately began spreading throughout Jerusalem. Rather than accepting the disciples' testimony that Jesus had risen, some claimed the body had simply been stolen. Matthew even states that the guards were persuaded to spread this story, adding that this saying is commonly reported among the Jews unto this day. Whether people accepted or rejected the resurrection, everyone agreed on one remarkable fact: the tomb was empty. For many critics today, this explanation remains attractive because it attempts to dismiss the resurrection without accepting a miracle. Yet there is an ancient artifact that makes this discussion far more interesting than many people realize. In 1878, a marble tablet was sent from Nazareth, the hometown of Jesus, to Paris, where it eventually became part of the museum collection now housed in the Louvre. Scholars have carefully studied its language, lettering, historical style, and archaeological characteristics, with many placing it somewhere in the middle of the 1st century, during the reign of Emperor Claudius, approximately between AD 44 and AD 54. That places the inscription only a decade or so after the crucifixion. Today, it is known as the Nazareth Inscription. At first glance, the text appears to be nothing more than another Roman legal decree. But one particular command immediately captures attention because it strictly forbids anyone from removing a body from a tomb. The punishment for violating this law was extraordinarily severe, treating such an offense with the seriousness usually reserved for crimes against the empire itself. That raises an important historical question, because grave robbery certainly existed throughout the ancient world, yet thieves almost never stole bodies. Their goal was valuable jewelry, coins, precious objects, or expensive burial goods placed alongside the deceased. Human remains themselves had no financial value. Why then would an imperial decree focus specifically on removing corpses rather than stealing treasure? Some historians believe the answer may lie in the remarkable events that had already become widely discussed throughout Judea. Within only a few years of Jesus' death, his followers were boldly proclaiming throughout the Roman world that his tomb had been found empty and that he had risen from the dead. Christianity spread beyond Jerusalem into Syria, Asia Minor, Greece, and eventually Rome itself. The movement continued growing despite persecution because the apostles consistently proclaimed the same central message. As the apostle Paul wrote in 1 Corinthians, "Christ died for our sins, he was buried, and he was raised on the third day." If these claims were spreading rapidly across the empire, Roman authorities may have viewed disputes over emptied tombs as more than simple local religious disagreements. An empire built upon law and order would naturally respond if reports concerning violated graves and sealed tombs were creating unrest among its subjects. This is why some researchers suggest that the Nazareth inscription could represent an official Roman response to growing controversies surrounding the empty tomb of Jesus. Although the inscription never mentions Jesus by name, never refers directly to Christianity, and never identifies a particular event, its timing, location, and unusual focus have led many scholars to see an intriguing connection. Other historians remain cautious and argue that the inscription may instead relate to a completely different incident elsewhere in the Roman Empire. That reminder is important because responsible history distinguishes between evidence and interpretation. Even so, regardless of which view one accepts, the inscription demonstrates that concern over disturbed tombs had become significant enough to deserve imperial attention during precisely the period when Christianity was rapidly expanding. Perhaps that is what makes this marble tablet so fascinating, because it does not force belief in the resurrection, yet it reminds us that the empty tomb was never a legend invented centuries later. It belonged to the earliest historical conversations surrounding Jesus. Friends, enemies, Roman officials, and Jewish leaders all found themselves responding to the same astonishing claim. For Christians, that claim has always rested upon more than tradition, because it rests upon eyewitness testimony, transformed lives, and a message that spread across the ancient world despite intense opposition. As Jesus declared in John 11:25, "I am the resurrection and the life." 2,000 years have passed since those extraordinary days in Jerusalem, yet the questions remain as compelling as ever. Why did the earliest opponents feel the need to explain an empty tomb instead of producing a body? Why did discussions surrounding this event spread so rapidly throughout the Roman Empire? And why does an ancient marble inscription still invite historians to revisit one of history's most debated moments? The Nazareth inscription does not end the conversation, but it certainly ensures that the conversation cannot simply be dismissed. Sometimes, the oldest stones continue asking the newest questions, and for countless people around the world, those questions still point back to an empty tomb in Jerusalem that changed history forever.